This is Basic Optical Concepts, Unit 1, Math Demonstrations. Our first problem is 1.5 equals 6 divided by A. In other words, you could say, what divided into 6 is going to equal 1.5? To solve it mathematically, what we want to do is remove A from the denominator. That's our first step. So we want to multiply both sides of the equation by A. 1.5 times A equals 6 times A. There's our multiply both sides by A, but we still have A here in the denominator. Any number divided by itself is equal to 1, so we can cancel this, and that equals 1. So now we have 1.5 times A equals 6. Well, we still haven't solved for A, but now we have A out of the denominator, and we can do, if we divide this side by 1.5, we have that number divided by itself again. And so we can cross that out again because that equals 1, and now we're left with A equals 6 divided by 1.5. And if you just do that number in your calculator, you have A equals, I hope, 4. Review problems. Here we have an equation to solve for A. We have A equals minus 150 times 1.25 plus minus a half. The order of operations say that you do multiplication and division first. So we will multiply minus 150 times 1.25, and that will result in minus 1.875 plus your minus a half. Now you have a straight arithmetic problem where you're adding two numbers with like signs, two minus numbers. That will create one larger minus value. And so if we just simply add those together and maintain the sign, you end up with minus 2.375. A similar problem would be A equals minus 1 times 1.25 minus a minus a half. Here again, you'll do the multiplication first, so you end up with minus 1.25. Now you have two minus signs directly next to one another. Two minus signs in algebra turn into a positive. So we have then a plus a half, or 0.50. Now the rules of algebra state that you subtract those two because those two numbers have unlike signs and maintain the sign of the larger. So your value is going to end up to be minus 0.75, or negative 3/4. This is Basic Optical Concepts, Unit 1, Math Problems. Here we have another equation to solve for A. We have 3 equals A divided by 0.75. Again, we have something interacting with A that's in the denominator. So the first thing is to clear on that side of the equation whatever's in the denominator. A is being divided by 0.75. So the only thing we can do is the opposite of division, and that is multiply. What we do to one side of the equation, we have to do to the other side. So we're going to multiply both sides by whatever is in this denominator. So it'll end up being 3 times 0.75 equals A times 0.75, and pick that up from the original equation. Again, as we said before, any number divided by itself is going to equal 1. So we're left with 3 times 3/4 is equal to A. And then A is equal to 2.25. Basic Optical Concepts, Unit 1, Math Review. We have two reciprocal problems. We are asked to find the reciprocal of 1/4, and here the reciprocal of 0.25, which is just 1/4 in decimal notation. We use the reciprocal in optics because when we are going to be studying diopters and focal lengths, basically to find one using the other, it's just using the reciprocal of that number. And what the reciprocal is taking that number and dividing it into 1. So the reciprocal of 1/4 is equal to 1 divided by that number. Now to solve this with a fraction in the denominator, basically what we do is again multiply, but flip the fraction around. But what we do to the bottom, we always have to do to the top. So here, this ends up to be 4 divided by 4, which one big number equals 1. And we're left with 4 divided by 1, or 4. So the reciprocal of 1/4 is 4. Let's see how that works when we're given it in decimal notation. It's a little easier, cleaner to understand. Divide this number into 1, and just, if you'd like, use it, put that in your calculator, find out the number ends up to just be 4. So again, the reciprocal of 1/4 is 4.